This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
And Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation joining us on halftime here. Mike, I didn't go into this game just expecting Arkansas to win, but I did expect them to play a better first half. I know the coaches, talk quite a bit about, hey, we need to have a better third quarter. They had a great third quarter. Quarters 1, 2, and 4 stunk. What did you make of what you watched on Saturday?
The real opportunity in that game and the untold story was the fans at kickoff time. It was potentially a great atmosphere. Maybe had a chance to be one of the best ever. And they got that early interception, and now you've got the ball, but you got to do something with it. And KJ overthrew a guy on third down. They ran, didn't have a lot of success. He overthrows a first down pass. And then, I've said before, they need to at least mix some successful passing in with their running in order to sustain a drive. And they had some drops. Matt Landers had a couple of drops early. And so the passing game's not working. And when it's not, the running game's certainly not going to run against a team like Alabama. And so the other component of that is, and this is just from personal observation, but I've gone back and checked the play-by-play charts. Whenever Arkansas is moving the ball, scoring points, the defense plays better. They just do. And look at what happened I think they came back in the first half, and there was a little bit of time left after they scored. And so the defense came in and stopped Alabama, and then they stopped them all the way until right at the end of the third quarter for a total of 17 unanswered points. They're playing better. But then I think you got to give Alabama credit for not only having better players, but their coaches they're about as good as you get. And their offensive coordinator, I think, took a look at what Barry Odom was doing, which, come on. Slusher gets hurt now. So what? Your top 3 guys are out now. 2 of them out for the year, and 1 of them's out for that game anyway in Slusher. So what do? He's trying to target the quarterback, put pressure on him, and you still got that man coverage. But they're doing it on the edges. And so Alabama just came right up the middle, and here's Bumper Pool standing there by himself like the Lone Ranger trying to stop their offense. And they go three big gouge plays on them starting late in the third quarter and into the fourth, and it's a blowout again. That's pretty much my assessment.
What about the idea that the team did fight back and got within 5 in the third quarter? I mean, you needed one more play from your defense to be able to give the offense the football and an opportunity to take the lead. And the fans did their part. I mean, they kind of looked like they might have helped cause that false start that sent them back 5 more yards. It's 3rd and 15, and Milroe just breaks off the first of 3 long runs, and that was pretty much the ball game from that point on. Like, I thought, Mike, that Arkansas needed to score a lot of points in order to keep up with Alabama. But, man, that was the chance for the defense to give them the ball and a chance for the lead. And if that would have happened, who knows?
Yeah, again, I think Alabama got smart and went, wait a minute, look at this defense. It's all heavy on the edges. We'll just attack the middle of it. And the first one I can understand. I don't understand the other 2. And then this projects into this week because you got to ask yourself, with these 3 guys hurt back there, your best 3 defensive backs are out, and maybe Slusher comes back. I don't know. But at some point, do you just go with a base defense, have zone coverage, and stop trying to attack with linebackers and cornerbacks or whatever, and just try? I think with Mississippi State, they got a possession offense anyway. The more you can stretch out their drives, the more chance you have of them getting a penalty, false start, holding, or whatever. And those stop drives without you having to do anything if you just don't let them have gouge plays. So I'm looking maybe for more of a prevent-type defense against these guys, and you still got to score points. And the other half of this equation is Sam Pittman said after the game, we got to fix our passing game. Well, what he was talking about was those incompletions for a variety of reasons. But to me, the fix is you got to stick with it. You can't look at a couple of incomplete passes and go, I guess we got to run it now. So I don't know what the end result of all that's going to be, but those are the 2 keys. They've got to, and again, I'm not saying, air it out every play, but mix in, vertical type passes. It's throw downfield, and then on defense, maybe go back to a base defense with zone coverage.
I'm floored at the lack of a downfield passing game right now, because you brought in a receiver in Matt Landers that I thought that was his game, that's what he was going to be doing. And he's had almost as many drops as catches in the last couple of weeks. And the drops always stand out, but those are going to be pretty big plays. And, you go back and you remember last year's game against Alabama, and I just wonder to myself, like, how much of that was Treylon Burks that kept Arkansas in that football game? He made play after play. And, look, I think this wide receiver group is better overall than last year's wide receiver group. But there's still, you don't have to have a Treylon Burks, but you have to have somebody that you feel you can count on. I think Hazelwood's done well. Outside of that, and Keytron the last couple of games, but they're still not targeting him all the time, and it's not been deep. The wide receiver group has been lacking in that way, in big plays. And is that KJ or is that the receivers?
Well, it's a little bit of both, but I think it's underuse. When you don't do something very much, I think people get a little bit anxious. I think maybe those receivers are now, okay, the ball's coming my way now, I got to catch it. So I just think it has to be a more of a part of the offense, maybe about 40% of the plays called, which is what we had in this game. I don't think we're not giving Alabama enough credit for being what they are, which is they're pretty good. And I don't think they're going to play anybody the rest of this year that has a better defense than they have. So, I just think you can't give up on the passing game just because you had a few problems. Just keep coming at them, keep going at those guys. We know the talent's there. It's just a matter of you just got to use it.
So, and we don't know who's going to be a quarterback on Saturday against Mississippi State. KJ hit his head. Maybe he's got to go through concussion protocol. We're not sure of the situation, but maybe this feels up in the air for this next week. And, when I saw Cade Fortin out there backing up KJ, I thought, well, maybe there's something up with Malik. I wasn't paying attention on the sidelines, and I didn't see, how disappointed that Malik looked. I don't think it had anything to do with him not playing quarterback, because he would have known. He would have known if Fortin's been the backup for the last few weeks. Malik Hornsby's well aware of this, but he never got on the field, ever. So I think that's what he was more upset about. So, with Fortin, if he's the starter against Mississippi State, to me that feels like it takes away one of the things about the offense under Kendal Briles that makes it what it is, which is a quarterback who's dangerous running the football and throwing the football. That's what KJ usually is. I'm not sure about Malik as far as throwing the football, and I don't think Fortin is a runner very much at all.
Well, he had that 9-yard run. People who watched him tell me he's okay in that regard. He can, if you're not paying attention, he can go 8, 10, 12 yards on you. They say he's a better passer than what we saw. He completed 40% of his passes in that game. I think we'll find out something today about Jefferson. If he's not on the practice field, then it's not good. And I don't know whether Sam will say anything about it or not. He's pretty tight-lipped about that stuff. I'm not sure. He's going to get asked about Hornsby. I don't know what he's going to say. I thought it was interesting that Hornsby puts out this tweet yesterday, but it's more about what he didn't say. He said, I never said I was leaving. That's disinformation. Okay, but in your tweet, you didn't say you're staying. To say I didn't say I'm not leaving doesn't mean you aren't leaving. It just means you didn't say it. So what's going on there? We know he left. He entered the portal last winter, then came back. There's different explanation for that. Some people have told me he didn't get much interest and didn't feel good about it. Other people have told me the coaches talked him into coming back by talking about this role that they were going to have him play. But the problem with him is, and you've got fans right now just acting like this is an international incident. It's a disaster. Go look at his body of work for the last 3 seasons. He has 1 touchdown run. I want somebody to show me where he went 60 with his speed, because that's what they act like he's going to do. He's going to get in the game and go 60 or 70 yards untouched. Well, it hasn't happened. He's not that kind of runner. He's a guy that runs sideline to sideline looking for the edge and trying to get around the edge before they get there, and most SEC defenses aren't going to let you do that.
No, they're not, Mike. And you make a great point. What we've been talking about with Malik Hornsby, it's all been off of potential. It's not been off of what we've actually seen him do. We've all just been kind of guessing at what we think he could do because we know about the speed. And that's just something that, is really God-given for a lot of people to be able to run that fast. And if KJ's out this week with Cade Fortin being your guy, you're thinking it's going to pretty much fall a lot onto Rocket Sanders' shoulders, which we've seen him be able to hold up 4 games with 100-plus yards this season. But Sam has talked about multiple times how they're still trying to figure out RB2. Does that need to get figured out this week, especially if you lose the rushing attack of KJ Jefferson against a good Mississippi State defense?
Yeah, I know he wants to name a 2 and maybe go with 2. I don't have any problem with him using all 4. He keeps experimenting. Here's the problem. DeBinion comes in, looks better than any of them, and then what does he do? He fumbles. I mean, he's off to a great start, catches a pass, goes about 25, and then fumbles on a first down run. So, these guys, rotating them, they're each a little bit different. I think when you bring in different guys, it kind of throws a defense off a little bit just for the way they pick their way through the offensive line and find places. So I'm fine with him continuing to use those other guys. To me, their only shot with Fortin is if he is able to throw the ball effectively, that triggers the running game. We've seen it over and over again. Sometimes all it takes on a touchdown drive is a 15, 18-yard pass right in the middle of it, and all of a sudden here comes the running game. So if he can just be effective, occasionally connecting on these things, and then you turn it over to your running game and hope. You got to talk to those offensive linemen. You got to tell them if that's the case this week. This is your game. You got to push these guys back. You just have to. You're seniors. You've been around the block. Go out there and win the line of scrimmage.
And speaking of that offensive line, how do you think they did against Alabama? I mean, we know what kind of frontmen Alabama normally has. I felt that they had a good front this week, this year as well, along with Will Anderson coming in there. How do you think the front line held its own against Alabama?
I thought they were better at some times than others. I think there's some evidence that when these guys are really motivated, they're pretty good, but at times they kind of slack off. And that's why, to me, Sam Pittman goes in there and you get your O-line coach and you get Pittman in there with a room and you just challenge the heck out of him this week. You just tell him, you got to be more consistent. You're the men on this team. You're the beef. This team will win or lose based on what you do, so don't let us down.
Do we need to see – well, let me ask this a different way. This next month, I mean, October last year was not a good month for the Razorbacks. It was their worst month of the season. And the schedule is set up for – well, it's just a difficult schedule for this month. And, you get Mississippi State playing really well in Starkville. They're ranked again. And then you go to BYU, a place you've never played before, traveling a couple of time zones away. Who knows what that's going to be like? They've got a good quarterback. And then after the bye week, you get Auburn. And as bad as Auburn's been, and who knows if Brian Harsin will be coaching them by then, they still beat Missouri. They gave LSU a game for a while, but goodness, choked on a 17-point lead. You got to find a way to pick up at least one win in these next 3 games. I'd love to go 3-0 or 2-1, but you can't go 0 in the month of October against FBS teams like last year now.
Oh, I agree. I think you got to start off by winning this one. You can't let that streak go to 3. And it's a winnable game. You can beat the Pirate. People have done it. He went to Lubbock last year, or didn't go to Lubbock, but in a bowl game, Texas Tech, which wasn't very good, beat him handily. He's a little bit inconsistent if you look at his career. He's had these games where people figure out what he's doing. You have to figure out that offense. You have to defend it well, and it is different. You can't. I don't know what Barry Odom's going to come up with this week, but he's been fairly effective in dealing with these guys the previous 2 years, especially that year one, the 2000 season. They won that with defense. So you just got to go out and, as I said, slow those guys down, make them go 6 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, and then, penalty, okay, we got to back up, and then maybe they stall out based on that. and then you've got to score points. You got to be throwing downfield in this game, and whether it's Jefferson or Fortin, you got to throw it. You got to occasionally uncork one. Stretch that defense, loosen things up, so those offensive linemen aren't just running, blocking against a stacked defense every time they come up to snap the ball.
And to close on a thought of just the overall frustration of now 16 straight losses to Alabama. And look, it's the best program we've ever seen in college football under Nick Saban. This level of success is mind blowing in the current way of college football. But sooner or later, man, this losing streak has to end, Mike. I mean, dude, is it all about when Saban retires? I mean, when can this losing streak finally come to an end?
Well, it was interesting on the internet. A guy posted, for us senior citizens, we're going to have to give up. We're not going to see it. And maybe he's right. I said on Saturday before the game, the way you end this streak is you're going to have to get some breaks. And they got some. I mean, that snap on the punt that goes down to inside the 5, that's a break. You got to take advantage of that break. When you got that onside kick, man, that was the momentum thing there. You go down there and score, it's a tie game. But then you got to respond. And Alabama, people that get mad at them, I don't have any issues with Nick Saban. He's the best coach I've ever seen in my life because he takes talent and he coaches those guys like they're 5 stars. He coaches them like they're 2 stars. And he just gets them motivated. When you got a 5-star player that's on fire with motivation, how are you going to beat somebody like that? Now, they've lost, but Arkansas hasn't been one of the teams that's pulled it off.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Hopefully it'll happen. And, Mike, that was a depressing thought that the senior citizens won't ever see a win over Alabama. Hopefully.
Well, I'm one of them, so you got time. I don't know that I do.